Describe the graph of each polar equation. Confirm each description by converting into rectangular equation. So when I look at this first graph, r equals 3, I can see right away that if I was to graph this, this would be a graph of a circle of radius 3. Because my r is 3, and that's what it's saying. For any theta, my r is 3. So I'm actually going to get a nice circle here, and that's what I can see right away. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into rectangular form. So the first thing I do with a problem like this is I just try to think of the equations that we came up with in the beginning. So here they are, and in some way can I use these? So my first thoughts here are I need to get one of these equations to use here in any form or fashion. And I see this one down here, and that's x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So if I just take that equation and I square root both sides, I'm going to get r equals, and in general I get a plus or minus, but I don't have to really worry about that so much here because it'll come out anyways. So that's going to be r equals the square root of x squared plus y squared. So I'm just going to put that in place of the r up here. So that gives me the square root of x squared plus y squared equals 3. And then what do I do to both sides? I square them. So then that's going to be x squared plus y squared equals 9, which is the equation of a circle of radius 3. So there is my rectangular form for the first one. So now for this second one here, r equals secant phi, I don't think of it this way. I think of it as r equals 1 over cosine of theta. And that's what I think of when I see this, because I want to think about how this graphs. So if I think of this one and I plug in 0 for theta here, the cosine of 0 is 1. So when my angle is 0, I get 1. So I'm going to use every 4 to be 1 here. So that's going to give me this point right here. And then let's say I go to pi fourths. Cosine of pi fourths is actually 1 over root 2. So then if I put that in place of this here, it's going to flip. So it's actually just going to be the square root of 2. So at 45 degrees, which actually splits this right in half, it's going to be root 2. So if that's a 1 here, the root 2 is going to be here. So it's actually going to put a point right there. So then if I do 60 degrees, which this was 45, 60 would be just a little bit more, because remember I got to split that in 3 if I'm thinking of it that way. Then if I'm going to graph that one's going to be 2. So again, remember every 4 is 1. So if I think of that and I straighten it out, that's going to be here. And if I bring it around, it's going to be way up there. So then it's going to be a point right there. So now if I keep going, if I get to pi halves, I get undefined. So what happens is if I get undefined, that means I am actually straight up here. And I am actually not on my graph anymore. That's what happens. And then when I go beyond that, it actually puts me down here. So what I'm actually getting here, and this is kind of what I wanted to show you, and I kind of took a roundabout way of doing it, is that I actually get a vertical line here at x equals 1. And that's essentially what this is graphing here. And I just kind of wanted you to see that, because this does come out periodically when you get to Calc 3 and stuff too. So it's kind of a nice result there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to plug it in, and see what the rectangular equation is going to be. We already kind of know what it is. I gave it away, but let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually deal with the equation on the right here, so this one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this r equals 1 over cosine of theta, and I'm going to multiply both sides by cosine of theta, because that's what we do when we have rational equations, right? We get rid of the bottoms. And what happens when I do this is on the left, I get r cosine theta, and on the right, the cosines cancel, so I get a 1 over here. And then I go back and think of those equations again, and here they are. And then I think of, oh, r cosine of theta equals x. So then that tells me that this is going to be x equals 1. And this is my answer for the second one. That's my rectangular equation, which makes sense, right? We got that vertical line there and x equals 1. That just confirms what we've seen. So those are the answers for both of those.